This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is... the conclusion to our Will Vinton series. Last week we learned how Will Vinton became a master of the claymation arts and all the ups and downs that came with it. This episode, well, we pretty much talk about more of the same. Enjoy. Oh yeah, actually this is something I want to check on real quick, because I keep saying check out some stuff online, like especially stuff like some of the Noid commercials or Raisin commercials. Be aware, a lot of it is like that you'll find on YouTube is actually like ripped from old VHS tapes and stuff. So sometimes the quality is not good. I assure you, if you watched it live back in the day, it looked much better on our little 25%. It really did. Yeah, I mean some of the stuff online looks fine, but other ones it's like, oh my god.
Well, one thing people forget, hell, even me, everything we have is now HD and like all high def. And when you look at these old things on TV, even like 2000, you watch some stuff from year 2000, it's like looks real grainy and shitty.
Yep.
But back in the day, the TV was made for that. So like it was, the resolution was set for it, so it didn't look shitty. It actually looked fine.
Exactly.
And if you had asked me at the time, like between some of the older HD, obviously not now, but older HD stuff when they first started coming out, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't really tell the difference between like the tube TV and like the 420. Like
you're absolutely correct on that. It wasn't until 720p and like LCD TVs came out big.
That's when it started going. Oh, now I see it.
And also, I remember when the first high def like really came out. The people that really freaked out about how much they were scared of it. Local news casters, because most of those were kind of older and they relied on a lot of like makeup and fancy camera tricks to look young. So yeah, apparently a lot of them were freaking out because they're like, we're not going to look good on this HD TV.
Yep. Yeah, honestly, the higher def you get, the more it doesn't look good. And this is the one I always go to when I look at high def and how it's ruined some older things. With Spider-Man 2, I was in a Best Buy and I was going through and they were playing Spider-Man 2 to show you like, hey, look, HD. And I'm looking at like one of the really, really nice TVs. Like I can't afford it. It's one of those things that maybe when I get rich. And I'm looking at this movie, I'm like, it looks terrible. It's almost like you can't see it because they edit out, but it's almost like you can see the wires. As they're jumping around. It's just like, they're doing their best. It looked great, but once you get to a certain definition, it doesn't look realistic anymore. It does look cartoonish. So when you see some of the older, newer stuff, they know what they're doing. It's made for that, so it's fine. But when they made Spider-Man 2, that was still around the time of like tube TVs. So they're like, oh no, this would look great on your home TV. When even like for a 720, it's gonna look fine.
It's time for broadcast network TV more than anything.
Absolutely. I mean, even like we were going back, like we were talking about back in the Ewoks and the quest, not the Quest for Peace. It was the first one. It was the Caravan of Courage, and it was like those spiders. That was barely passable back in the day. That was barely passable on the tube TV. And now it's just like no.
Yeah, when you're 5 and seeing on TV, you're like, hey, neat. Nowadays, you're like, oh, dear.
Yeah.
So, among other things, the California Raisins...
I was going to say, I can see the zipper in the back of that Ewok. Anyway.
Oh, right. I can just smell the heat exhaustion from here now. So, the California Raisins actually did release 4 studio albums in 1987 and 88. Their signature song, Heard It Through the Grapevine, landed on the Billboard Hot 100 and peaked at number 84. Tons of toys.
It's the only song people know.
Yeah.
It's the only song people know about it.
They actually, they did a few other songs that were actually kind of... Usually when they advertised a new big commercial, they would come out with a new song for them. But I can't think of it.
I'm sure they did, but Heard It Through the Grapevine is the one and only song that I know about them. Like I can't.
They even changed the lyrics too.
They did or did not?
They did a little bit.
Okay,
I can't remember what it was about. They changed about being in love to being growing on a vine kind of thing. So
okay, that makes sense. My thing is, and it cracks it like sometimes takes Jenny aback. Cracks her up because like the way my brain works, I don't hear the lyrics. Like I have to specifically like consciously pay attention to the lyrics. I can play a song and I can even sing along to it. And they're like, "Do you know what that song's about?" I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know the lyrics whatsoever. I know. I just think to me, it's all just like it's part of the music. Like even though there are words, So yeah, like like I'd sing along. I had no idea they changed the lyrics, but yeah, when I think of California Raisins, though, like I just heard at the grapevine is the one and only song that I attribute to them.
They also had a Saturday morning cartoon series, comic books. They endorsed Post-Raisin brand. It's a California raisin world, and we were just living in it, Nate. They actually had a really good run, and they were used all the way up until 1994 when they were officially ended. Not because raisin sales were down; those were actually doing great. It's just because the raisin ads were kind of expensive to make, so basically all the profit they were making from the raisin commercials were kind of going back into the raisin commercials. Just so you know, a 30-second raisin commercial costs about $300,000, or about $900,000 in today's money.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
basically,
so they were.
like there was no real benefit. It was like, we can technically afford to keep making these, but there really is no like
Yeah, there's no
long term
benefit. The
benefit to this.
profit has
Yeah,
been made. The word has gotten
I
out
get it.
about raisins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also when it was all said and done, $400 million in merchandise and sales and stuff the California Raisins did. So that's pretty impressive. One downside about the whole raisin thing though is apparently because nobody really thought these raisin commercials were going to become a huge deal overall and stuff. They were just kind of like, hey, we'll just make some commercial this that. It's not going to be a worldwide phenomenon. The point being, Will Vinton forgot to negotiate for like some licensing rights for his creations and characters. So of that $400 million, they didn't get any percentage of it. Now they did get paid
Oh,
for the
boo.
commercials they made, but yeah, any other merchandise and sales, nope, they didn't even get like one penny of all that.
Oh, that was a flub. I mean, I understand why it was made because, as you mentioned, like these are just, hey, we're making these to sell some raisins. It wasn't we're making a whole
Yeah,
new,
you wouldn't be
you
thinking
know,
the kids would be lining up to buy toys of those dumb things because
yeah,
we sure
that
did.
sucks for them. I see why they made that mistake, but that sucks for them.
Yeah, Will Vinton, they talked to him in an interview and he just kind of shrugged. It was like, what you gonna do? Sucked. But at least we made it.
Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, but it also, you're right. I mean, that is a property under his name. He's like, look, I may not have got all this money. However, people know I did that.
Yep. Hey, that's something to be known for.
Right.
And Will Vinton said that the raisin mania was so big it actually got my dad to stop asking when I'd get a real job. Sounds like your dad's kind of a dick, Will.
Right. It's like, did you not see the devil thing I
Yeah.
did?
Ha. All right, Nate, let's go back to we were in 94 when the Raisins got canceled. Let's hawk back to 86 when the Raisins were being made. And what else happened that year? Well, after the Raisins, next thing you know, Will Vinton got to get together with Michael Jackson and do some stuff for his Captain EO show. Remember that, Nate? Captain EO back in the day?
Yeah.
Anyways, Michael Jackson did a thing called Captain EO where I think he was a spaceman or something. And also, Michael Jackson, huge fan of the California Raisins too, and helped actually design some of the second gen of raisins, featuring like the rap raisin and stuff. And
Captain EO?
hmm? Captain EO,
Me?
yes, just literally the letters E and O.
Oh, yeah. I
Captain
never,
EO.
that wasn't, that was a, was that an actual movie? Oh, no,
It was
it
like
was
an
a
interactive ride at
ride.
Disneyland
Yeah. I
slash
did
there
do
was
it.
supposed to be a movie. It was supposed to like kick off this whole chain of events of like movies and these things that it never took off.
Yeah. I remember the video game, and I remember I had the opportunity to see Captain EO, but instead I chose Star Tours. So
Okay.
like, yeah, we were at Disneyland, and they're like, okay, we can go see Captain EO, or we can go see Star Tours. And I'm like, Captain who? Fuck them.
Ha.
Star Tours.
What was Star Tours?
You know Star Tours? It was a Star Wars ride. It was like
Oh,
the
okay.
kind of
Way
same
back
thing
when?
interact like yeah, and well
Oh, okay.
it's still around, but it's not as good. I mean, to my
Gotcha.
memory. Like you go in, you sit down, it's like
It
they
feels
strap you in.
dated.
It's like it's what's the moving seats, the seats move around. Like basically what happens is you go in and like you fly through the movie. It's like, oh look, now we're doing
Oh,
this. And
okay.
oh
I know.
no, the Empire's after me. And it was actually kind of a bummer because when we went this a few years ago to Disney World, they also had Star Tours again. I'm like, oh sweet. Well, you go in there and it's a different. They changed the driver, which I don't know why they did that. And then I don't know, like instead of driving through, like they could just kept it. It was fine. There wasn't anything that was really bad about it. But you went through the Clone Wars. They switched it to like droids, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh come on, because you actually showed up at like the battle for the Death Star in the original one. And now you're like, oh no, there's the battle over Coruscant. I'm like, this is dumb. I also got motion sick, but I'm like, but I think that's because I'm old.
That whole
But
thing
like,
was just out
yeah,
to get you, man.
I left that. I was like, that was dumb. Now, Star Wars: Ride of the Resistance in Disney World, fucking amazing. Highly recommend if anybody goes to Disney World and you want to watch, if you want to have a Star Wars experience, 100%. I mean, you might have to wait in line for 2 to 3 hours, but it is fucking worth it. But Star Tours, it's fine. It back in the day it was great. It's not great anymore.
Good to know.
Yeah, but anyway, the whole reason why I kept Neo, I missed it.
Yep.
So.
Michael Jackson, big fan of Will Vinton. Thought he was going to be the next Walt Disney, and just wanted to work with him constantly right up until Michael Jackson kind of fell off the planet, sort of. Because he was on top of the world and then just kind of for a bit. But anyways.
Yep.
1986 was top of the world for Will Vinton. But you know who was not happy with Will Vinton's success? Embittered Bob Gardner. He was, remember him from the his Muse way back when? The guy he started out with?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, anyways, he was pissed about how things played out and would show up at Will Vinton Studios and vandalize it constantly, spray painting stuff like Swill Vinton on it, and making death threats serious enough that Will Vinton had to start carrying a gun on him. That's not cool.
Yeah, that's not cool. Like,
yeah.
Dude, back up.
Well, also, a lot of alcohol and drugs going through Bob Gardner at the time, too.
I mean,
people don't make the best decisions, but yeah,
fair.
Still, yeah.
Fair, but still, I don't know. It bothers me that people
not cool,
like
man.
that. They're like, yeah, I mean, fuck off. Like, just do something for yourself. Why you gotta go around and try to mess things up?
1987, and Michael Jackson hires Will for his Speed Demon music video, which, among other things, features a claymation duo of obese men on scooters chasing Michael Jackson down in an attempt to get him to sign both of their stomachs, which feels like someone's fetish. Not sure whose, but
yeah.
No, literally, it's like two giant, massive dudes on scooters, like, Michael, sign our stomach, Michael, sign our stomach. They're like rocketing after him with the scooters, and Michael's like, ah.
I have a quick question. Are you gonna talk about Bob Gardner anymore?
Not really.
Okay, because I just looked him up real quick, and I'm like, oh, whoops, he killed himself. So sorry, sorry, Bob.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up actually soon.
Oh, you were? Okay, so I was like, sorry, spoilers.
Whatever. So 1987, and Will Vinton Studios does the claymation for John Fogerty's music video "Vans Can't Dance." John Fogerty, of course, a founding member of Creedence Clearwater Revival, a big band in the '60s. Ask your grandparents. In 1987, he won an Emmy for doing some claymation on the show Moonlighting, starring Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd. That was a show I vaguely remember.
Wasn't it a dream sequence or something?
I think it was actually.
Yeah, because I mean that show is not known for claymation.
1987, CBS commissioned him to make 3 TV specials for them: a Christmas special, a Halloween, and an Easter special. These would be shown on pretty regular rotation in the holidays, and actually, they kind of went on rotation for a good long while. You don't really see them anymore, but I've seen the Easter and the Christmas one. We were just talking about the Christmas one earlier. There's a Christmas special that we were talking about. There's a Easter one and a Halloween one. Apparently, the Halloween one's the best one, but I have not seen that one, sadly. Claymation Easter did win a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program, and the Halloween one was nominated for an Emmy, but it lost to The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror.
That should.
Yeah, actually, yeah. See, Treehouse of Horror, man, that's top tier stuff, especially the early ones.
Yeah, but that's why I said it's a should, because it was an earlier one.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's been hit and miss. Like there's still every so often they'll get a decent one out there. But I've seen a couple of Treehouse of Horrors, like I guess.
Yeah. So these 3 specials that they had, as you'll notice if you watch them, there's a lot of custom Will Vinton characters in there. Like the dinosaurs and the bell and a few others, this or that. And these were actually basically them still reeling from the not getting licensing fees for the Raisins. These were basically characters that they created, and they were like putting them in these things and be like, hey, you want to license these characters and have them in your commercials or your TV show or stuff? Basically, they were kind of using these as tests to try to make their own Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny kind of character.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Like I can't fault them for that.
Yep. Basically, what's a Raisin thing? They're like, hey, we should make our own character that, will be like the Will Vinton character that we can, put on coffee mugs and stuff. But, and yeah, the problem is I was watching this thing and I can't remember his name. I should have wrote it down. The character they were kind of banking on was this one character like Mortimer Pig, which was a bad choice on their part. And I'll tell you 2 whys. One, he was kind of a bad guy. He was like always kind of like scheming and greedy and that kind of character. But 2, he had the voice of like a little kid, and they also insisted that he snort like a pig like every 4th word or so. And people don't like that kind of stuff typically.
Nah.
So yeah, so it basically sounds like a little kid talking about, doing dastardly stuff while snorting. And I don't know. They should have banked on a different character and pushed him harder or something. I did kind of
Yep.
like the Ebert and Roper, or the Siskel and Ebert duo, because the two dinosaurs they had, they were kind of like Siskel and Ebert. Those guys were all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Where were we? Oh yeah. Here's a nice little palate cleanser to get the horrible thought of him losing all that money on the raisins. So one of the Will Vinton studio animators named Craig Bartlett used studio equipment and to complete one of his own projects, by doing which he made a series of short claymation films titled Arnold Escapes from Church in 1988, The Arnold Waltz in 1990, and Arnold Rides a Chair in 1991. So, and these shorts would eventually become Nickelodeon's Hey Arnold series. So we can
Oh,
kind of thank Will Vinton for bringing us Hey Arnold, which I never watched Hey Arnold, but I've only heard good things about it as far as kids show
yeah.
goes.
I've seen like references to it and just whatever. I mean,
Same as me. I have
yeah.
talked to people who
So
have watched it, and they're like, "No, it's a good show. It's worth it for the era and stuff."
I mean, but what again? Like I'm sure you feel the same thing. Good to know. Never will watch. Yeah, that time's passed for me.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen.
Nope. 1989, and Will is elected Grand Marshal of the Tournament of Roses parade. But the whole mood of that is killed when old Bob Gardner calls in death threats. And heightened security has to take over and this and that, and just, makes it a lot less fun for old Will.
Bob, man.
Yeah. Well, at least now
Okay,
you know
so
he
Bob.
gets his comeuppance.
He gets his comeuppance. Yeah, he was
Yes.
killed by his greatest enemy himself.
Ha! Yeah, you're absolutely 100% correct on that. Early 1990s, and when Will Vinton has been hearing the next Walt Disney for a while, and he starts taking it to heart and draws up his own plans for a Disneyland known as Claymation Station, which would be like a miniature version of Disneyland where you'd hop on these little like trains and go to different like stations, and they'd be claymation, whatever the hell's. But as you can guess, this didn't get past the developmental stage because I'm assuming a theme park made entirely of plasticine clay was a bad idea.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like,
They weren't actually going to do that. They weren't actually going to
yeah,
do that, but I would like to think on a really hot day, the buildings are just like melting on top of people and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, not only would they not do that, like I'm sure the setup would be terrible, but the maintenance would be a nightmare.
Oh, God, yeah. So in the earlier part of the 90s, Will wanted to move back into the realm of making movies and started pre-production on two films, The Frog Prince and The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. The Frog Prince would have been written by Jim Cox, the guy who did Beauty and the Beast, The Rescuers Down Under, and Fern Gully. And the Santa Claus movie would be based on a illustrated adaptation of a Frank L. Baum book and written by Jeffrey Scott, who wrote The Muppet Babies.
Mm.
Which, yeah, so there you go. There's a Muppet Babies reference.
Muppet baby. Yeah, everything
Yes.
everything needs a Muppet babies.
Yep, babies. Unfortunately, Will was unable to garner enough financing to get it past the pre-production stage at this point. So we're up to the mid-90s now, and Will Vinton Studios sees the writing on the wall. They see this whole CGI thing. They see Pixar doing their thing, and they're like, all right, let's start bringing in computers and start working towards that a little bit. Maybe meld our claymation and computers together. We'll see what happens. Good idea on their part. At least they're being forward-thinking. One of the first things they created with these new CGI, with these new computers, were the original CGI anthropomorphic M&Ms from back in the late 90s. Remember them? They're still
Oh
around,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
oh, yeah,
Will
but it's
Vinton
like
was the one that, yeah, but very early, rougher looking ones. Yep, Will Vinton invented those, or, helped create them through the advertising agency. So that was kind of cool that I didn't know.
yeah.
Yeah, speaking of Pixar, it's the mid 90s, and they're blowing up because Steve Jobs took them over, and Toy Story, and they're just the big news everywhere. Well, Steve Jobs gives a call to Will Vinton and says, hey, you want to become part of Pixar? We're willing to buy out your studio and absorb you into our company. So Will Vinton had a choice. Trade his millions of shares of Will Vinton stock to Disney in exchange for equal share of Pixar stock, basically doing like a one-for-one Will Vinton stock to Pixar stock,
Mhm.
or stick with what he had and stay away from the deal. He declined the deal, which he regrets, as he said in an interview.
Oh, I was like, it's like,
Well, as he pointed it
is
in
it?
2012, he did an interview where he said that if he accepted that deal and stuck with it, the amount of shares he got from Pixar from that deal with Pixar would have made him one of the major shareholders of Disney and been able to be like kind of one of the guys who ran it to an extent.
Oh,
Yeah,
what a
but also at the time he was like, "Hey, my studio's doing great. Why would I want to roll into a bigger one and lose creative control? But
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, I know, but yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
one of those things. Was like, dude, that was a bad call.
Yeah, yeah, that and the raisin thing. I mean, good thing the
Yeah,
rest of his business was doing good because otherwise he would have jumped off of a building, I feel like.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Thankfully, he did have other things going. So, but still, man, that would suck to just sit there and like, man, I could have been just,
Yeah, could have been one of the big
hey,
boys at Disney.
I could have
Because
been
yeah, he
somebody.
said it would have put him, like, on the same level as, like, Bob Iger as far as ownership stakes or something like
Mhm.
that, so, yeah.
Man, that sucks. Man,
Yeah.
that sucks so hard.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see him actually have, like, a controlling stake in Disney and what would have happened. Would have been
Mhm.
good, would have been bad, don't know, but it would have been neat.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We are assuming good things about, they it could have
Yeah,
been.
assuming it could have gone horribly wrong. We could not
Yeah,
even have a Disney anymore if things went wrong.
he could have been a real bad character and,
Yep.
like, dragged everything down. I mean, I'm not exactly.
Well, yeah, next thing you know, like, the Disney fascist army is just, like, running rampant over the West Coast, where they're all wearing, like,
Right.
giant Will Vinton heads mowing down people, yeah.
Never mind ice, he had something worse in
Yep.
mind.
Yes, exactly. We got off easy. You'd be surprised what the alternate realities were. So, 1997, but who should come calling to Will Vinton but frequent guest star of Oft Off Topic, Brandon Tartikoff from Alf and A-Team episode fame and probably some other stuff. Remember Brandon Tartikoff, the NBC head guy who was just kind of like everywhere in the 80s?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, he was the guy that got the A-Team going and a bunch of other stuff. Anyways, he calls up Will Vinton and asks him to make a claymation Christmas special called The Online Adventures of Ozzy the Elf. Ozzy the Elf being AOL's original mascot that no one remembers. Yeah, I kind of forgot, but America Online actually had Ozzy the Elf as their mascot for getting people online and getting those free discs and stuff. So there you
Is it
go.
the Elf?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
vaguely remember this. Vaguely. It looks very late 90s CGI too. So do you see it, Nate? The blue.
No, I think I'm misspelling Ozzy, though, because I spell Ozzy like
O-Z-
the fucking singer.
Ozzie.
Oh, I-E.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just seeing the I'm just seeing the singer. Oh, yeah, I don't recognize that guy at all.
All right. I recognize him.
I see the claymation, but yeah, I don't recognize him.
Yeah. Yeah. He wasn't around for very long. So Tartikoff would order this show to be made by Will Vinton, and then he promptly dies. So Will Vinton Studios essentially worked on his dying wishes. And somewhere Alf is smiling over the fact he got away with murdering Tartikoff. I'm assuming. I kill me. Ha! Throughout the 90s,
Well,
commercials would be the majority. What were you going to say? About Alf murder?
it was yeah, it was you know what? It was probably it was a fully formed thought, so it was fine.
Welcome to my world. I have nothing but like half full thoughts.
It's like my mind threw something together real quick, and I'm like, as it's coming out of my mouth, my brain's like, but this thought doesn't have an end. What we're doing? Where is this going?
You never know. So that's why you just keep talking in circles until your brain figures out where you're going. I do that a lot. So throughout the 90s, commercials would continue to be the majority of their work. They do about 80 to 90 commercials a year for various companies. And Vinton had a staff of about 300 people at this time. So pretty good business he had going there. We're up to the very late 90s, and the limits and cost of standard clay modeling is beginning to hold them back a little bit. So they come up with a easier and cheaper system that instead of claymation is made up for interchangeable foam parts that they dub foamation. It doesn't really, it kind of looks like claymation, but it's not, but it looks really cool. And using this foamation style is Will Vinton would come up with Fox's animated series, The PJs. Remember The PJs?
I remember. Funny enough, I actually hit a clip on TikTok earlier today. So yeah,
Yeah. Yep, that was of Will Vinton Studio production, made out of foam instead of clay. And that show actually holds up really well. I watched it several years ago, but it's worth checking out. It holds up really, really good because I mean it's kind of one of those things where it holds up because it's about poor people making it by day to day, so nothing's really changed in the last 30 years. So
yeah.
yeah. It's all still very relatable. But anyways, yeah, go ahead and give it a watch. Eddie Murphy's finest work, I will say.
Yeah, I was thinking about one of the dumber episodes. They're all dumb, and I like dumb. But he's like, "Don't put any toilet paper, or don't put paper towels in the toilet. It'll clog it." And there was one time where he actually needed to clog, so he put all the shit in there, and it like was still not clogging. And they took one single tear. one single sheet of toilet paper and lightly sit on top of this mound of things that were in the toilet, and that's what clogged
Yep.
it.
Being a janitor, I can say that that's kind of accurate, to be honest. So by the late 90s, Will was no longer really one of the animator sculptors, and had been more of a CEO and paperwork guy for a while. But by this time, he was looking to get back to onto the work floor and get his creative juices chugging along. So he decided he wanted to step down as CEO or step aside and hire somebody to replace him so he could do more artsy fartsy stuff. This guy he found was one Tom Turpin, who is a veteran of the Hollywood CEO scene, and a man who is confident he could take Will Vinton Studios to the next level with his Hollywood swagger and connection. Will Vinton even said it was love at first meeting and couldn't hire him fast enough. To quote Will Vinton, he was wonderful to work with, made you feel smart, and told you all the things you wanted to hear, which that feels like that should be a red flag when somebody's telling you all the things you want to hear.
Yeah, that's rarely a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while people can pull it off, and I guess sometimes it's a good deal, but by Tom Turpin's own accounts, the finances were actually pretty good at Will Vinton Studios when he took over, but he figured they could be even better. And he was a firm believer in to make money, you got to spend money. You got to razzle dazzle the clients.
Jesus Christ.
You kind of see where this might be going. Anyways, his big idea was to bring in some outside capital, get some big name money to back the company, and so some big name money also gives you big name money clout. So when you go to get people that do commercials for you, you can be like, "Hey, so and so's an investor. Ain't that neat? Now hire us." That kind of stuff. Will agreed that they should go find some investments. They decided to try to keep it in the Portland area because they're local boys. Keep it local. The studios were still in Portland, by the way. Basically, all the Will Vinton stuff stayed in Portland. He was a Portland boy. When you're in the Portland area and you think of big money, you think of Nike, the billion-dollar shoe company. I drove by their campus once. That place is effing massive, dude. It is ginormous. And, yeah, and like jogging tracks all over the place where they like test jog stuff and whatnot. Yeah, it's acres and acres of stuff. Anyways, it's pretty impressive. So, well, actually, I wrote this little story about how my dad originally thought Nike was a Japanese brand. So every time he saw people wearing Nike, he would go on a racist rant. Yeah, it wasn't until like he's in his 40s he learned it was from Portland. So whatever. Anyways, Will and Tom, wanting their money, arrive on the Nike campus and pay their entry fee of another newborn soul. And they got to meeting with the Lord of Nike, Phil Knight. Tom Turpin spoke on behalf of him and Will and said, "Mr. Knight, I have come." "I know why you have come, Mr. Turpin," interrupted Phil Knight. "I have read the electronic mail you have sent me." See, it's the 90s, so, electronic mail.
Yeah.
It's a joke. Yeah. "I have agreed to help finance your endeavors. I am truly a fan of yours, too, as I was infected by raisin mania, and it caused me to take up the bass guitar where I sprained my thumb something fierce, and it still troubles me to this day.
Revenge.
My cousin committed suicide because of your claymation feature, and I respect a man who can kill another man by art alone." The smell of sulfur erupts as three pale men in business suits materialize and offer a contract to Will and Tom. The terms were as follows. Phil Knight would get 15% ownership of stock in Will Vinton Studios, and in exchange, Will Vinton Studios would get $5 million and rapper Chili T as an intern. Yes, Chili T, the man who released 1993's unforgettable album Get Off Mine, was also known as Travis Knight, the son of Phil Knight. So, hold on. I've got to upload a picture of him just so you can see what he looks like. It's a very 1990s album cover. Anyways, old Chili T's rap career didn't really take off to what it was, so he wanted to go after his
Yeah, of course it didn't.
he wanted to go after his second love, which was animation. And as you know, Nate, getting in the animation industry is not easy at all. Like, even if you're good at it, you can be a top tier, and it's still kind of hard to get in the animation industry. So Phil Knight, knowing this, agreed to this deal so he could do his son a favor. And in exchange, Chili T got to become an intern there and help out, learn the ropes and this and that. And when they took him on, Will Vinton was like, maybe we shouldn't tell, the other employees about this. So they kind of kept that a secret, the whole, patriarchy stuff, or not patriarchy. What am I thinking of?
Nepotism.
Nepotism, yeah. So let's keep the nepotism down and everything so people don't get mad. And I will say, though, despite what you might think, all my research, it turns out Chili T was actually a really good employee and an intern at the thing. Apparently, like all accounts, everybody that was interviewed was like, no, he was here to work. He was here to learn. He did really good. We actually liked him around the office. So,
oh, good on him. That's, you know what? That's good to hear. I mean, nepotism still sucks, but you know what? And this image of Chili T is totally fucking stupid. But like, I mean, he tried to work, and I'll give him that. Yeah, that's respectable.
yeah. Yeah, he gave it a shot, and yeah, apparently everybody at the studio loved him, and even like I think Will said it was about 3 years afterwards, like somehow news got out about the nepotism thing. But by that point, everybody liked him enough that nobody really cared. I mean, a couple people might have, but for the most part, people was like, hey, whatever, he's a good worker, we like him. So good on you, Chili T. You get the Off Topic Good Job Not Being Worthless award.
Right. I mean, like you said, once the nepotism came out, it really does show like the fact that he could have done nothing and been a total pain in everybody's ass, and he could have just got the money and just like never showed up for work and just said, "Hey, I'm who
Yeah,
my daddy is."
yeah,
But the fact that he
exactly.
didn't do that, that shows he legitimately gave it a shot.
Yep. Yeah, and he legitimately wanted to be an animator and do this stuff. Will Vinton Studios now has $5 million of cash in it. Will wants to use it to make those two Dream Project movies he has, the Frog Prince and Santa Claus movie. Mr. Turpin had other ideas on what to do with that money. His idea was like that whole, razzle and dazzle him with your wealth to get to your clients. Well, he wanted to do that, and he wanted Will Vinton Studios to open an office in LA because that's where all the cool kids were. And not just any office, but this giant 2-story office. One that they were going to have a special elevator built that would cost $1 million, but it would take clients up to the second floor and up to this giant bay window that you could see out all over LA. And it would be wow people so much they just couldn't wait to sign any contract you put in front of them. That was Turpin's idea. Does that sound like a good idea to you, Nate?
It does not. I was actually, as you're telling me that, my eyes are rolling back so hard in my head, I almost went blind.
Yeah, I kind of like sense that all the way through the mic and everything, through the internet and the air. I was like, yeah, that's the same thing when I was reading. I'm like, really? And I mean, and also this also meant too that because their main office was in Portland, so every time there was a meeting, Will and a crew would have to fly down to LA, meet with these people, and then fly on back, and that costs a lot of money over the time. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that whole $5 million they get from Phil Knight, yeah, they pretty much pissed it away on that LA office and the $1 million escalator and the whole flying back and forth and stuff. So, well, that was dumb of them. Although I will say one thing though, one thing that did hurt Will Vinton's finances real quick is was kind of him being a nice guy. So, animation is kind of like a gig business where like Disney will have a movie to make, so they'll hire on 5,000 animators for a contract just for that movie and then fire them afterwards because,
Yep.
they don't really need a bunch of animators sitting around doing nothing. Well,
And that's
that's
kind
way
of how that
almost,
works.
yeah, that's pretty much how all animation studios work, but not Will Vinton. He liked his workers and he liked his family, so he basically kept all 300 people on staff around the clock and never laid anybody off so they could always have their health insurance and this and that, which was
Mm.
great for employee morale and everything, but kind of bad too because, there was times where they would be like making tons of money and other times where they'd be losing money and it was just kind of like,
Yep.
eh. But still, Will didn't want to lay off people because he was like, these are my friends and family, which
Yep.
I feel like I would be the same way too, to be honest. Dumb as
I think I
financially it
would
is.
do I think what I would do, I would be doing the what's his face, Adam Sandler route, where he makes all these movies and he keeps on hiring the same people, but he doesn't
Yeah,
keep them on staff. So like that's I think probably the better, what he does is better.
yeah.
Where it's
Just
like,
make sure to
yeah,
pay them
you're
enough
not,
that they, can make it
yeah,
by till the
like
next contract.
exactly. Like, you're like, look, guys, I'm sorry, we can't have you on staff full time. Like, you can't be permanent employees. However, you are on this list. Every time a project comes up, you are absolutely you have a job, and we're gonna
Yeah,
pay you well, and you're gonna work hard until that next. Just, I mean, because just budget. Hey, like, and then I can sign anything you need. Like, give you kind of recommendations. If you guys go outside, great. But just know, like, when the project comes up, you'll be one of the first people I come to. So that's really the better way to play it. But they
yeah,
didn't
that
do
would
that.
be. But also, yeah, and I would like to see how the workload was because I mean we're doing a lot of commercials, so it's kind of hard to say how busy everybody was or wasn't or whatever. But yeah,
Hmm.
but also during the downtime, I'm sure there's carpets to clean and stuff. So,
Yep.
anyways, after burning through $5 million in the year 2000, or $10 million in today's money, Will and Tom head back to Phil Knight, hat in hand, and ask, "Please, sir, may we have more?" To which Will, I assume, leaned back in his chair, tinted his fingers, and made some thinking noises for a long time. Then Phil said, "Yes, I shall give you more of this money you crave, but this time there's a stipulation. If you can't make this company profitable in a certain amount of time, I get to take it over and make it profitable." Will immediately thought, well, that's easy enough. We've been profitable 23 of the last 25 years, so that should be easy. Also, we've got new shows on UPN coming up. We got the Gary and Mike show on UPN, and we also got the pilot for Slacker Cats starring Harland Williams and Sinbad. That's going to be a hit too. He continued thinking to himself,
Yeah,
hell, we're
everything you're saying does not bode well.
yeah,
In fact, the letters UPN
UPN.
together doesn't really bode well.
Yeah, I did that on purpose with the writing on the wall kind of thing. It's like, hey man, that UPN show is good to be a hit. Uh, hell, Will Vinton continued thinking to himself, hell, we're even in talks to work with Tim Burton in doing that the animation for Corpse Bride. And you know how much money Tim Burton stuff makes? We're going to be rolling in the cash. It'll be fine. Nothing's going to happen. And also, Phil Knight likes us. It's not like he's actually going to take us over. That's just somebody put in there for the accountants. That was actually kind of like what actually Will said in the interviews too. So it should be noted that this train of thought did happen during the meeting, and Will just sat there, mouthing occasional words to himself for like 5 minutes while thinking all that stuff. Phil Knight and Tom just staring at him and be like,
Yeah, I'm sure he like every so often got it. He's like, "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom," and then like they heard muffled like evil laughter from down the hall. They're like, "Oh, that's not him."
yeah. Well, UPN goes under almost right away. Slacker Cats never takes off, and PJ's only had about 2 more years under its belt before it went under, and all this led to losing money and Will Vinton and Tom Turpin getting ousted at the top. Basically, Phil Knight used his contract stipulations, and he also did the power move of offering some stockholders a boatload of money so he could just get majority ownership. Will Vinton sues. He's like, hey, you can't do that, but he doesn't really have a leg to stand on because, well, the paperwork basically said he could kind of thing. Will Vinton kind of screwed the pooch in that regard, but he did get one concession from the courts. He was like, hey, man, I'm not here anymore. I got kicked out. Can I just have the Will Vinton Studios name back? Of course, we're like, you know what? Fine. You can keep Will Vinton. They'll change their name. So Phil Knight and Chili T, his son, promptly changed the name to Studio Leica and signed the Corpse Bride deal with Tim Burton. So, yep, Chili T took over Will Vinton Studios and changed it to Studio Leica, the stop-motion animation studio in Portland. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, yes, and Studio Leica, in case you didn't know, is a stop-motion studio that did Coraline, Kubo, The Two Strings, Paranorman, and some other stuff. All really good movies, too, though, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, actually. I was thinking, like, as you were talking, I'm like, wait a minute. This sounds like, because I remember there was someone owned an animation studio who was a son of someone super rich,
Yep.
and it didn't really matter if the movies are profitable, so he
Yep.
focused on quality, and like, which I thought of like,
we even talked about this a while ago, and like when we were a game or something, it was like some trust fund kid owns a the studio,
and so it was this guy, huh?
Yep, and that's how. And he was Chili T, the rapper, who was intern at Will Vinton Studios. And when Will Vinton got ousted, Phil Knight was like, "Well, I'm going to run this place, and my son's going to take it over because he's got good ideas and this and that." And honestly, I mean, the studio's a success, so obviously Chili T does have some talent to him.
Yeah,
So I mean,
look at this. Coraline was huge. I love Coraline.
I know I keep calling him Chili T like I'm denigrating him, but I mean, hey,
Yeah.
he made an album, I never did, so who's laughing now? Right?
Yeah. Well, Coraline was great. I love Coraline. Paranorman. I saw bits and pieces of it. Box Trolls. I've never seen it. Who cares? Kubo and the Two String.
Kubo and the Two Strings, I really want to watch because that looks
Oh,
amazing.
it's really good. I loved it. It was really, really good. Missing Link. I haven't seen it, and apparently they're coming out on October 23rd of this year. Wildwood, which I've never heard of. So yeah, they have a new movie coming out.
Neat. So yeah, Studio Leica came from the dying flames of Will Vinton Studios.
Yeah, I highly recommend Kubo and the Two Strings. It was really good.
Yeah, I need to watch. I regret not going to the art museum in Seattle because they actually had a Leica display there for a few months.
Oh, cool.
It sounded cool. Yeah, but I never made it, and it's gone now.
I mean, so I'm of mixed feelings now because I love Leica Studio. I love what they've done. However, it does kind of suck how they kind of snatched that. But I mean, but then again, I mean,
but also, I mean, it was kind of Will's thing because even he was like, "Well, yeah, I sort of dropped the ball and this and that." And
yeah, so that's actually makes me like him a little bit more because it's like he's not fucking vandalizing anybody, and he's just kind of like, well, this happened. Yeah, I mean, and he's not poor. I mean, he's not like he walked away with nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like they robbed every last dime of him. He's still financially all right.
Yeah.
So old Willie V heads out and forms Will Vinton's Free Will Entertainment, his new studio. It's kind of like an attempt to sock it to somebody. It sounds like Free Will Entertainment. This is my anyways. So he gets right to work trying his hand at CGI because that's basically the future in 2005. what we get out of that is the test footage you can find on YouTube. It's test footage titled The Morning After, which blends a CGI bear with a real life actress with results that are about par for the era. Maybe a little bit better. Lighting is still weird on the CGI character, but it's actually not bad. It's 5 minutes long. Story involves a woman's decision the morning after banging a rock star bear the night before. Does she make this a one night stand, or does she give the mixed relationship a try? The lady is played by Ina Strauss, and she does a pretty good job playing a barophile, and she's pretty hot. You get to see her in her underwear and stuff, like sneaking out of the bear's bedroom, being like, ooh, gets on the phone. She's like, yeah, I
What
did
is
it with the
this?
bear last night. It's called The Morning After. Hold on. I'll upload some pictures of her, too, so you can see what she looks like and what the bear kind of looks like. So there's some pictures of that Inigo.
This looks vaguely familiar, but
It made the rounds as being kind of a viral thing like a few years ago.
okay.
Maybe not viral, but yeah, it went around. And also, the bear kind of looks like the Charmin toilet paper bears a little bit.
He does, doesn't he?
Yep. So, also what happened in 2005? Our old pal Bob Gardner commits suicide. So, there you go. We caught up with that now.
Yep.
Same year that a woman has
He's
sex
dead.
with a CGI bear, he dies.
Now he's dead.
2007, Will Vinton gets his comic book writing on with Dark Horse Comics, and together they released a series called Jack Hightower. The cover shows a tiny man with the tagline, "The agency's fiercest 10 inches," which made me think it was a funny comic about a tiny man fighting crime, but if you actually look at the pages, Jack Hightower is a full-size man, which I guess means that the 10 inches is somewhere else on him, I suppose. So, yeah, right. So, yeah, between this and the chick banging a bear, I start to wonder if Will Vinton was a bit of a horn dog. Here, have some pictures of a Hightower, the private eye with 10 inches of whatever.
Oh, there he is.
Yep. So, remember how Will Vinton always wanted to do a version of the Frog Prince?
Yeah.
Well, we touched on that very briefly, but yeah, it's kind of one of his dreams. Well, in 2014, his dreams kind of come true when he produces The Kiss, a musical stage adaptation of The Frog Prince, and it was performed at the Lakewood Center of the Arts in Lake Oswego, Oregon. Yeah, it was basically just done for like a local community theater, but hey, man, he got to write the thing he wanted to. Maybe not in the way he wanted to, but whatever. Also, around that time, he was also teaching at the Art Institute of Portland. Would have been kind of a cool teacher to have, I guess.
That would have been, yeah.
Yeah, at least been fun to pick his brain about a bunch of stuff. I would have been like insufferable just asking thousands of questions like a little kid. I know me. That's the way I would have done. 2018, and Will Vinton dies of plasma cancer, which sounds like a bitchin' form of robot cancer from the far future, but no, it's blood cancer and F cancer. So that's where Will Vinton's life takes an end. 2021, the documentary Clay Dreams is released, dealing the life of Will Vinton and his studio. And documentary's pretty good, decent info. Most of it you heard here, plus other stuff I found. It's all right. You get some cool interviews with him. That's where I got a lot of the interviews where he's like, yeah, Chili T was a good employee. Yeah, I kind of screwed the pooch on the raisins thing and this and that. But he seemed like a really happy man. So, I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's important.
Yep. Will Vinton actually has his own section at the Academy Film Archive, which is a group dedicated to preserving movies and films for future generations. The Academy Film Archives have preserved several of his films, including Closed Mondays, The Creation, The Great Cognito, Dinosaur, Legacy, and A Christmas Gift. And that's pretty much all we got on Will Vinton. How did you enjoy this journey of clay-based knowledge we just did?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad it wasn't
Yeah.
about the other guy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like I said, I kind of wrote that at the beginning, being like, I'm going to trick Nate into thinking this is going to be somebody he doesn't like. And honestly, this is actually probably far more interesting than Chuck Norris would have been.
And it's right up my alley. I'm an animator. So yeah.
And we all love claymation. We've talked about that, our love of stop motion and
Absolutely.
stuff. Whether it's Harryhausen or claymation or anything, or even Studio Leica. Although I will say I do like Studio Leica stuff, but their stop motion is almost so slick, it's almost hard to differentiate from CGI sometimes, because they also do use CGI to blend it a little bit. But so, yeah. But whatever, that's a small gripe to pay.
Yep.
All right. So, any final thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. Like I'm really glad we talked about it. Like again, I have mixed feelings with Studio Leica, but I'm glad they're around.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm glad the guy's not destitute.
Like I said, it wasn't like it was like they kicked him out of the street and stole everything from him and ruined his life or anything. Like I said, it wasn't a contract like if you drop the ball this second time, you're going to be out. Which
it was a business thing that didn't go the other guy's way, but they didn't destroy him. So
yeah,
that makes me
exactly.
happy.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed this episode, Nate.
Yep.
Yeah. Now,
Right. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and see you next time.
we'll see you next time. Yeah. This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.